Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Yashodanandana Brajajana Yashodanandana Brajajana Yashodanandana Bhagavatam ki jai. Yes. No, son. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nasta Prayeshu Abhidreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto. Text line. Chapter 9, verse 9. These are Brahma's prayers for Very good. Creative power. Yavat Krita Cham Idam Indriyarta Maya Balam Bhagavato Janaisha Bhashik Tavan Na Samshikir Aso Pratisankramena Gartapi Dukanivaham Bahati Priyarta Yavat Pitatvam Atma Indriyarta Maya Balam Bhagavato Janahi Shapasye Tavanna Samsutiraso Pratisakrameta Nartapi Dukanivaham Vihara Kriyarta Yavat Pritatvam Midamatmana Indriyarta Maya Balam Bhagavato Janahi Shapasye Kamna Samsritiraso Pratisankrameta Yartapi Dukanivaham Bahati Priyarta
Yavat Pritakvam idam atmana indriyarta Maya Balam Bhagavato Janaishapasye Ravanna Samsritir Aso Pati Sankramena Yatarpi Dukka Nivaham Vahati Kriyarta
Yavat Prakmame idam atmana indriyarta Maya balam bhagavato janaisha pashe Tavanna smriti ashu praktikrimita Vyayati dukkha niyaham vihati kriyata
Yavat Pritakvam Midam Atmana Indriyaharta Maya Balam Bhagavato Yani Ishapasye Tavanna Samshri Asa Pratisankrameta Yadapi Dukkani Vaham Vahati Kriyaharta Yavat Pitakvam Idam Atmana Indriyarta Maya Balam Bhagavato Janaishapasye Tavanna Samsritirasa Pratisankrameta Yatapi Dukkani Vaham Vahati Kriyarta
Yavat Pratikam Idam Atmana Indriyarta
Maya Bhagavato Yani Shapasye
Savana samsriti sato pratisita yata vidukkha bhavati kriyartha yava as long as Pritakvam, separatism, idam, this, atmana, of the body, indriyartha, for sense gratification, maya, influence, external energy, bhagavata, the personality of God, Jana, a person, Isha, oh my Lord, Pashe, she, Tavat, so long, Na, not, Samsriti, the influence of the Kriya Artha, for fruitive activity. Oh my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, he cannot get out of the entanglement of material miseries, being influenced by your external energy. Let's repeat that. Oh my Lord, the material miseries are without factual existence for the soul. Yet as long as the conditioned soul sees the body as meant for sense enjoyment, he cannot get out of the entanglement of material misery, being influenced by your external energy. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The whole trouble of the living entity in the material existence is that he has an independent conception of life. He's always dependent on the rules of the Supreme Lord in both the conditioned and liberated states. But by the influence of the external energy, the conditioned soul thinks himself independent of the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His constitutional position is to dovetail himself with the desire of the Supreme Will. But as long as he does not do so, he's sure to drag on in the shackles of material bondage. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:55, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parta mano-gatan. He has to give up all sorts of plans manufactured by mental concoction. The living entity has to dovetail himself with the Supreme Will. That will help him get out of the entanglement of material existence. Om Gana Timirandasya, Kananjana Shalakaya, Chaksuramilitanyena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam, Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa, Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pristaya Bhutale, Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta, Swaminiti Namane, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharane, Nirvisesha Shunyavadi, Paschacha Desatarane, Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnave Bhyo Namaha. Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gauratrishe Namaha. Panchatatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhakta Bhataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate, Tapta Kanchana Gaurange, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langaya Tegirim, Tat Kripa Tamaham Bande, Shri Guru Dinatarani. Krishna Tudiya Padapankaja Panjarantam Adhyaiva Me Visatu Manasaraja Hansan Prana Pranamai Samaye Kapavata Pittahe Kantavaro Danavido Smaranam Kutaste. So the verse Bhagavad Gita, the full verse, 255. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Parta Manogatam Atman Yevatma Tushta Stiti Pragya Stadochate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. That's a series of verses where Arjuna asked Krishna, how do I know? How can I recognize someone who's in transcendence? So Krishna, how does he walk? How does he sit? So Krishna is telling him these things. Desire. We're in the material world because we desire something. Independence. We want to enjoy the material body. So by mental speculation, philosophers like Buddhists, Mayavadis, they see that all these desires get us in trouble, right? First place, it's just confusing. But they get us in trouble, and so they think it'd be no desires and desireless. But that's not possible. Actually, the only thing the soul can do is desire. And then Krishna makes all the arrangements to fulfill the desire. So we're not really the doers. We're just we have the desire and Krishna makes all the arrangements. So like Prabhupada said, I never did anything. I wanted artists. I wanted beautiful paintings. Krishna sent artists. I wanted this. Krishna sent that. I wanted, he understood. Devotee asked Prabhupada, what is the secret? How can I? We hear all those questions. It's a common question. How can I do this? How can I do it? Prabhupada just said, desire. Well, you get what you want, So most people are crying because they don't get what they want. Because sometimes devotees ask, I've been chanting, I'm not getting what I want. I said, what do you want? Well, I want a better job. I want more income. I want this. That's not what you're supposed to chant for. So you might not get it. Sometimes Krishna will give devotees those things, but in such a way that they won't want it again. So Arjuna said, how does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? This is the first answer. And Brahma, the universe hasn't even been really created yet, but he knows all this already, how people are suffering so much because of their desires. And so the point is to purify our desires. If people have no idea of purity and of the spiritual world, then they think, well, just have no desire, then I'll just do nothing. Don't think, don't do anything, don't see anything, don't hear anything. Become an inanimate object. And that's not possible for the soul. But even if it was, you couldn't tolerate it for very long. You have to do something. You want something. You want to enjoy. We want association. We want loving exchanges. We want all these things. They'll never be satisfied. So you hear Krishna saying in this Bhagavad Gita verse, this desire for sense gratification arises from mental concoction. It says that other places, mata spashas to quote, mata spashas, sitoshna sukha dukkada, agama payano nisa, tam satikshvasha bharata. To tolerate these attachment to heat and cold, happiness and distress is all by mental concoction. Everybody creates a different idea what will make them happy. So some they don't like that there's rules and regulations. You know, I want independence. I want to do whatever I want, whenever I want. So they think no government would be nice. But according to scripture, a bad government is better. A bad king is better than no king. They had the world. We have that information from the Bhagavatam. When that King Vena, his father, renounced the world, and he was a king. He was a good king. And then there was no king. So the thieves and rogues, they took over. There was no government, nothing to stop them, no good police force. So that was no good. So then they appointed his son as the king, and he was very powerful. So that he chased all the thieves and rogues away, but he was the worst thief and rogue. So it became worse. But at least, it wasn't quite the same. So anarchy is not really possible because there's always the laws of nature. And there's always someone that will be stronger and will dominate. Even in the animal kingdom, they call it, there's a dominant male or a dominant cow amongst the cows. And in the animal kingdom, usually the dominant males, they fight over it to prove who's the strongest one, and he gets all the women. Right? They fight in different ways. The one that's most like the humans there's a few different one's called a musk ox. There's some kind of animals, goats. This musk ox, they're very big. And they have a horn that's just a huge bone goes all across their head. You see that? And they get far away from each other and they run at top speed and smash their head together. And then they both go staggering away. And then they do it again and again until one either can't get up again or he runs away. And then this guy, he gets the herd, So people are fighting like that. Individual people are fighting like that. Countries are fighting like that. Because they're in the bodily concept of life. And everywhere. And it seems like more and more and more, because this is Kali Yuga. And now practically every advertisement is somehow you can enjoy your body. This will relieve all the suffering of your body, right? This is I've tried everything else. I've tried and now I got this one, and suddenly I have no more pain anymore. I have no more problem. I'm completely healthy. I sleep good. I'm having, every kind of pleasure I want without any restriction. Please buy this product. But how can that be? This mature world is dukkhalayam shasvatam. The mature body is temporary, and it's full of miseries. Where our real nature is Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal, blissful, and knowledgeable. with form, not without form. And this is a bhakti realization that Maya bodies will become self-realized. They can realize that they're Satchidananda, but they don't have form. So then they can't stay on that because they have no relationships. They're just all alone. It's in the Brahma Jyoti. There's pleasure. There's no suffering. The pleasure, but it can't stay there. The devotee is not attracted to that. Like Gopakumara in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when he was going out from the material world, he got in that realm, and they were trying to tell him, "Stay here. It's so nice." He said, "No, I want," because he was a coward boy. Even he couldn't be satisfied in Vaikuntha. It's all in reverence. He saw the great, Vishnu and the Supreme Lord, and he ran up to try to embrace him. And, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't. It's like this. So there are devotees who they like that. They're very happy in that. But ultimately, there's got to be some sort of loving exchanges. So everybody, when they're hankering and they're writing their songs and their dramas, it's always a wonderful love stories, but then there's so many tragedies also, beautiful love affairs that don't last, and yet something happens. And the Bhagavatam gives us so much descriptions of the material world. Here Brahma is giving them how the people are suffering so much because they're so attached to the body and the so-called possessions of their bodies. There's, and I think Ramayana, one time Ravana, he was going around conquering all over the universe, and he came to earth and he conquered some earthly kings. And then Narada Muni came and he said, this is really not good for you, Ravana. These earthly people are so weak and they're so unfortunate. They're so attached to their families and they have such short lives. It's not worthy of you to fight with them. You should fight somebody your own size. And Ravana was, so he told him, you go and fight Yamaraj. So he ran off and with his whole armies flying through the air, and they attacked Yamaraj. And the Yamaraj soldiers went out. There was a big fight. So Yamaraj came out, and he had his Yamadanda, the rod of death, and he was just going to throw it at Ravana. But then Lord Brahma came and said, no, you can't do that. I promised he couldn't be killed by a demigod. So you can't kill him. So Ravana thought he won. He got more puffed up. He defeated Yamaraj, defeated death. But the death was coming, but not from Yamaraj, directly from the source of life and death, from the Supreme Lord himself. So we're trying to get out. Somehow, by great fortune, Lord Chaitanya came in Kali Yuga and opened up the floodgates. What the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, the warehouse, storehouse of love of Godhead, and started distributing it. Krishna had left it locked up, and surrender to me, and it wasn't accessible by just everybody. This Krishna Prema. But Lord Chaitanya, he's distributing freely. Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya. He's just Krishna, but he's distributing his Krishna Prema. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam. He's just giving it freely. many people can't believe that. They read the Vedas or something, and it talks about how rare and impossible it is to achieve this prema. But Lord Chaitanya is just giving anyone who will take it. Vishnu John, he once asked Prabhupada, because he was obviously getting so much mercy, he was always chanting. He was the first one up in the morning, waking up everybody else with kirtan. He was the last one to go to sleep. He'd chant all day on Harinam, not 2 hours or 1 hour, like we think 4 hours, 6, 8, 10 hours, And they said everybody, no one else wanted to lead kirtan. Everybody wanted to hear him. And he asked Prabhupada, why are you giving me more mercy than others? Prabhupada said, no, I'm giving the same for everybody, but you taking it. See? And Krishna's, like the sun is shining sometimes in New York for everybody, but not everybody goes out to get the benefit, or they're not able to go out because they have to work in the factory during the day or something. So many people, Kali Yuga. So, but it's there. Lord Chaitanya's mercy is there. We're trying to give it freely to everybody. We're chanting in public. Devotees all over the world are chanting in public and giving out the mercy. We're not exactly selling books, or we're giving mercy. But people don't understand that. We're all objects of mercy. Why? How can we be here except that Lord Chaitanya is so merciful, and then Lord Nityananda more merciful, and he's empowered Prabhupada more merciful. Prabhupada said that there was only 2 Jagai and Madai at that time. Now everybody, everywhere you look, everybody's, maybe not as bad as Jagai and Madai, but there's very rare to find anyone that's following all 4 regulated principles, even 2, very rare these days. They consider it necessary that you have to eat meat and all these things in order to be strong. You can't enjoy without, and even to get down to finally but gradually people wake up, When I first joined and we would go to some school program or something, the basic question you'd always get was, how can you live without meat? Where do you get your protein? I guess people still ask that, in spite of all the knowledge that's been distributed. And then we'd tell them, you can get beans and this and that. And then after a while, vegetarian was coming along a little bit. I remember one time somebody asked, was it some high school probably, well, what's wrong with sex? And Vishnu John Swami said, well, there's a lot of diseases. At that time, it wasn't even AIDS, it was called herpes, but it was publicized everywhere, and people were getting this. But Prabhupada gave the example that people will get these venereal diseases and suffer so much for the treatment. But then as soon as they're so-called cured from it, they run back right out to try to enjoy again. This time I'll be all right. See, this time I won't make somebody pregnant. This time I won't get this. This time her husband won't catch me. Whatever. They have all these formulas that, to cure your hangover, and if you're intoxicated, detox. We were at this Bonnaroo. Everybody's heard of that? Gopal, you know the Bonnaroo, right? Anyway, it's a big rock festival, really big one. Very great for book distribution. So many bands are there, like 50 bands or something. And so they had a book of sponsors. And of course, everybody's eating all kinds of things and drinking and whatever they're doing. And so one of the sponsors, it said, "Did you eat too much and drink too much over the weekend? No problem. We have the best detox." So they're teaching us, it's called Bhoga Tyaga in Sanskrit. Enjoy and renounce. You enjoy, you get really burned out, you get sick. I give it up. I don't care for this. I have no interest. And then after you recover, then you're right back. So it's big business. Detox, spa. Enjoy as much as you want, and then don't worry. You're sick and you're burned out. We can help you. So that type of life, we won't make a lot of advancement, but we're trying. And the more we can just desire, I want Krishna. What do you want? Well, I want Krishna. But people are, like, and there's so much facility now. It's just online, Amazon. That's the perfect example of Maya. You just go to buy a toothbrush, and then it'll flash up all these other things. You might like this and this and this and this. And because you bought this book before, you might like these pile of books. And, they know everything you did, everything you ever bought from them. And they send you notices. We have a new product. Sometimes it's good because if you buy a Krishna conscious book, it might show you a bunch of other ones that you might not know about. But anyway, that's how the Maya works. Just come on. This one didn't work, but this one will. I've got something new. I've got a new version of it. Depending on whatever people do. How many different kinds of cigarettes, but there's only a couple of companies. They make all the different brands of cigarettes. And there's always a new one that's supposed to be better, And then we have low fat, we have organic, organic potato chips. We have the, don't worry, everything's all right. You can enjoy. That's Maya's business. It's her duty. So we're trying to give people a higher taste. If you want to know, we can talk about chanting, we can talk about, but we mostly, just read the book. You want to know what it's about, read it. Why accept what I say? Just read it. Just try chanting 5 minutes a day for 1 week. Make experiment. People like experiments, right? Just try it, and you'll see, examine your consciousness day by day, just even that little bit, if you just put the effort in. So now it's readily available also, but so many other things are readily available, both so-called spiritual and then grows. All different types of pleasures are being offered, advertised everywhere we look. That is Maya. Prabhupada, it wasn't a morning walk, it was raining, he took his car, he was driving around. There's a cigarette, I don't know if they still have it, called Cool. It's supposed to be cool. It has some chemical in it so it doesn't burn, And Prabhupada, he said, how can you smoke hot fire and be cool? And he talked about it like on the drive and in the morning class. You want to know what is Maya? cigarette is Maya. How can you smoke hot fire and be cool? This is Maya. But that's what all the ads are. Cigarettes especially, they're very tricky. In Africa, I saw they had one beer, be ultimate beer, and beyond ultimate. Ultimate. But they use names of Krishna for these intoxicating products. Ultimate, supreme, bliss, all these. So, but anybody just hears the holy name, maybe they're not paying any attention to it, but it penetrates it. The soul hears it when they go by the Harinam, and something's happening. It's a beginning. Prabhupada said if they even touch the book, so we try to, if they read even the one word, it's a beginning. Seed is planted. And we pray, and we keep chanting to purify the atmosphere of the world, because that's how Krishna consciousness can conquer the world. Gradually, the consciousness of the world is changing. More and more people have a desire for something better, something pure, something, that doesn't have so many bad side effects. And then that way they will accept and will have a better field. Otherwise, the birth, death, and disease and old age, the wars, the pestilence, the hurricanes, the floods, whatever else is, volcanoes, earthquakes, these things are going on. They've always been there. And like even when Hiranyakasipu and Hiransha were in the womb, started having all these natural disasters happening. And the mother was so scared that even when they're in the womb, this is happening. I don't want them to take birth. She tried to hold them in, But finally they took birth. And then there was so much earthquakes and floods and, terrible things all over the world. The Prophet said, when these things are a sign that demons are taking birth. So, because it seems like a nice place for demons to come. So much Maya, and people are so easy to manipulate and to get under their control for sense gratification. So we want to make it purified so that more and more devotees are taking birth also. We see so many children now, just very young, but they pick up a mridanga, they just follow, they just play it, they memorize slokas, and they're naturals. And they even can go to karmi schools and everything, but just still remain devotees. So Krishna is sending them. We have to take care of them and take care of ourselves. Chant the holy name. Try to be focused, attentive chanting. Now there's a big thing they call mindfulness. One devotee, Vedasara Prabhu in Atlanta, he is called the Mindfulness Seva Society. And he's got thousands of university students, but they chant Hare Krishna. They read Bhagavatam. They do yoga. They do self-introspection and stuff, but all with the goal of Krishna. Mindfulness, think of be careful what you're thinking. Mind the gap, You know that one? London, everywhere you look, mind the gap, and it's a souvenir T-shirts and everything, because there's a big gap between the platform and the car. So sometimes their foot falls down in there. So they might watch out that you don't step in the gap, but look out for the gap between spiritual and material. The Viraja River, we get caught up in that. Naranta Prabhu made a song, Rolling on Viraja, just trying to enjoy and not getting anywhere. So, but that gap, when we take shelter of the spiritual master, it becomes very small and anybody can cross over it. Otherwise, it's an ocean, of material nescience, and no one can get across it on their own. But Krishna can shrink it down to the hoof print of a calf, this big. So let's, really pray. We're getting, Krishna's sending some very good people here now to help us. And there's so many people waiting. They want books. We have to find them because we don't get the, like the Amazon driver, he gets the list, where to go, and it says on there who to give it to and everything. But we don't have that, but we just have to try it for everybody. And Krishna, is this the one? Is this the one? Krishna's in everyone's heart. Actually, everybody's looking for Krishna. And if we can exhibit some sort of happiness. Patri Prabhu, a great preacher, he's from Russia, he said, how did it go? Success is getting what you want, right? You make your list. I want this. By this year, I want this much money. I want this job. I want this car. They even tell you, just meditate on the house you want, meditate on the wife you want, and you'll get it, But that, Krishna says the desires just increase anyway. Greed can never be satisfied. Krishna will fulfill all our needs, but he can't fulfill all our greeds. But happiness is wanting what you get. Yajricha labasantushto, satisfied with whatever comes automatically. Okay, I'll take it. Not saying, why did Krishna, what's wrong? Why did you give him more than me? And why did I get this and that? This is the nature of the mature world, envy. So the spiritual world is love. Krishna is loving everybody. Lord Chaitanya is giving Krishna prema, love of God, the real prema. And Lord Nityananda is, showing us the way. He's letting us in. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So, I hope we get some comments or questions so we can spend a little more time here. Somebody? Where's our question man? Kyle. Dr. Kyle.
We haven't seen him in a. Seems like we haven't seen him
He's
in a
listening online, right?
He's online.
I don't know. I hope so. So who has to say something? Huh?
Yeah, how can we, Maharaj, I guess, be more tuned in our and what I mean when I say that is when we're distributing books, sometimes we may think, oh, this person may take and this person may not take, and I'm going to avoid this person. But how do we maybe see past that to understand, okay, like, there's a soul inside this body. It's not just the external thing.
How can we? I pray, help me, help me. Vaishesika Prabhu was once asked, what is the meaning of the Maha Mantra? he said, I need help. It means I need help. You know, Krishna help we, and if we're fortunate, then we want to help others. So I'm not, I mean, I've had that experience, but if we're really praying to Krishna, help this person, please help them. You know, they need it. They're suffering. It's like Lord Brahma is crying that people are suffering in the mature world because of their stupid desires, and they're being misled and unfortunate and short lives and all these things. And so we pray we can help them. Krishna will help them. He will use me. That's all I know. It's not a technique, you know, that you just say in a different way, but naturally we're judging people. I had a good lesson with, you know, when I first hadn't really gone on book distribution very much. And I thought, well, hippies would be interested, you know, hippies are the thinkers, you know. And I approached a lot of hippie looking people and they were really gross and just bad, you know. And then there was one guy, who's big fat guy, I don't know, like a truck driver or something. And he stopped. Oh yeah, Mahabharata. He started talking about the Mahabharata. And it was like really nice. And he was really interested in the books. So then I thought, yeah, right. Who am I to know what kind of people, you know, just approach every. Gopal, what was it yesterday? You said that last guy you met. Tell about it.
Yesterday when we were coming back from the walking Harinam, I was walking past this one guy. He was just standing on the corner. He had a do rag, gold rings. He was smoking marijuana, big. And so I just stopped. I just looked at him and said, "You have like a really humble energy." And he looked at me. He goes, "Really? You feel that?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I put the science of self-realization in his hand. I started to talk to him a little bit about what it was. And I told him that we asked for a donation, and he just said, "Okay, hold up." He gave me back the book, and he walked to his car. And then he came back, and he gave me a $20 bill. And then I just started loading him up. I gave him, Bhagavad Gita, SSR, Higher Taste coming back. And then he looked at me, and his eyes started to tear up. And he said, I just don't know who I am. I'm so confused. I'm so lost. And he's like, I really need help. And it's just like from an external point of view, it's like, you just think there's like this dog there. But he's just confused just as anybody else. And he's just, putting up a front. And he's just so like that's what the condition of most people are.
So I guess we learn by experience, right? So we just, the more we meet people like that, then there's many stories, Kusakrata Prabhu is the prime one. I don't know who knows Kusakrata, translated so many books. He was the craziest guy. But he was always a genius. Pushkar knew him from school, and he would tell about him, Bhakti Peter. He knew the Bhagavad Gita. He read all these books and taught himself Sanskrit, and Giriraj doesn't, like, I just couldn't believe when he came. He just looked like a madman, But then, and he just stayed in his room. His room was a total mess, just piled up with books everywhere. He was just translating and just had his own thing, and he just printed a few hundred copies of each one on Xerox or something. But he just kept translating all these books. But he just, when he first came, he just couldn't believe that this guy could function, and there's quite a few devotees like that. When I first came, there was a few brahmacharis, and then they kept telling the temple president, "You just get rid of him, he's a hopeless case." But somehow he said, "No, he's all right. He'll be good." Fortunately for me. But so many devotees like that who consider, kicked out of the temple several times. Finally, some temple took him in. It turns out one of my godbrothers, he kicked out of even Berkeley a few times. He was so crazy. And then they finally settled down, and he was like summa cum laude from Columbia University or something. Became a brilliant lawyer. Passed the New York bar exam like with top scores, like the first time. Very rare that anybody can do it. It's the hardest one in the country. But so you never know what, who's gonna. But we just pray, help me, So today we'll go where? Anybody know yet? I didn't. Huh? Washington Square Park. All right. It's going to be like 70 degrees. Summertime. Let's see. All right. Any more comments or questions? Good.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the class. It's really nice. We're just wondering on because you were speaking about desires earlier, and you were saying it was desires that are the reasons as to why we all suffer, and that makes sense to me as somebody who sort of like kind of gets our philosophy, or has just been spending enough time around people that do, for that to make sense to me. But if we were to preach, if we're preaching to people about trying to purify their desires, how would be the best way to sort of explain this to somebody without trying to say that like there's a right way to desire and there's a wrong way to desire, because these sorts of ways of explaining things really put people off, I've noticed, by saying like, okay, this is a bad desire and this is a good desire, and to go in the right direction you must only desire the good things, and explain things like that to people, especially if you're trying to bring them into the movement or bring them into a way of thinking, really I found really puts people off. So how would you say would be the best way to explain that to somebody?
It's a good question. We just try to present something attractively so they might start wanting that, like prasadam, for instance. So many, Prabhupada said that most of the devotees come because of prasadam. They come and they taste prasadam, and then we start thinking, well, I can't wait for the next Sunday or something special. They don't know what it is. So they want prasadam, or they just like a devotee. They want to meet you again. Or they like the book, So we can't explain, things very much to anybody. You have to experience. You want to experience it. A lot of times people say, well, can you explain? No. You just experience. It's not but we can answer questions in detail if people really have specific questions. What do you want? We can show how desires lead you to, wrong desires lead you into trouble. And there's plenty of examples of that, right? Okay, I wanted to go out and get drunk, and I ended up smashing my car and all these things, right? These things happen all the time. But normally we don't learn a lesson, we just do it again. Maya tells you, the next time you'll be all right. You can drink responsibly. And I believe it. So we want to give something better. And so that's what we try to give them a book, inspire them to want to read the book. Induce is a good word. I think that, you want to induce someone to come to the temple, or, just make, when we do Harinam, make it sweet and attractive so people want to listen to it. And many people do. Many people like it. And many people, they're listening. And if you try to approach it, no, I don't want the book. I just like the music. Okay. Please enjoy the music. You can find it online. You can find it everywhere. All right. Anybody? Jimmy, how do you explain to people? He seems to inspire a lot of people.
Maharaj, what did you say? Or can you repeat that, please? Last part. How to like tell people that they have wrong desires, or yeah, in a nice way. I guess is the first part is to be very nice to them. I think a lot of times people, they can really feel if we're coming out in a really proud or like arrogant way, right? Like we have to be humble, and actually then they'll listen to us. They'll be like, oh, this person's pretty nice. I'll take some time to listen to what they're saying, and then when they actually hear us, right, then we can actually give them some instructions, and they'll take it to heart, right? So it's the mood is always the first thing. I know, and if they're puffed up, right, there's not much you can do. I know, if they're very puffed up, there's not too much you can do. You can just let them passively get the mercy, right? Because like they're pretending that they're asleep, right? They're not. If someone's pretending that they're asleep, they're not gonna react to someone trying to wake them up. So if someone's like, "Oh, this person's very nice. Yeah, I do have some troubles. I do actually have some problems." I remember actually this one time in Atlantic, I was approaching this one woman. I wanted to give her a book, and then the first thing she said was, "Oh," she said, "I'm very peaceful." Oh, like, how do you know? And then she started talking about. She was just walking. It was so crazy to me because she started talking about how her father abused her when she was young, and now she's having problems with that, and she's just really opening up. And I thought, how did this happen? I went up to her, approached her for a book. She didn't take a book, but the second I approached her, like when she saw, oh, there's this nice person who wants to talk to me, then she started opening up, right? I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. They're looking for nice people who want to talk to them, someone who they can open up to. And then generally when that happens, then they're also open to say, yeah, I do need to meditate. I know a lot. Gopal, I hear him say that line a lot. Oh, do you meditate? And they say, no, I don't. They say, oh, do you want to start? They say, yeah, I should start. No, I should start. And we show them the book, right? Like, I guess essentially we're out there to help people who want to be helped, right? Because everyone needs some help. We can only help the people who want to be helped, right? And we got to look for those people. Okay, Krishna.
One time in Japan, we had to make a very nice pamphlet, like colored, 4 pages, We give that on a Harinam. And when we ran out one time, so I just, we just drew up a thing, and put some, you've seen these little cartoons of the Harinam and funny looking thing. And I just wrote on it in Japanese, are you not getting what you want or not, and not wanting what you get? And that was all. And we put like 8 of them on 1-page paper and went Xerox, cut them up. And that day, like, with the nice one, people sometimes think you want money or something, they wouldn't take it. But this one, everybody was grabbing it. And I watched and so many people were laughing and really happy with, that simple thing, instead of something has too much stuff, they just put in their pocket and that's the end of it. But so that worked. And that's the thing. Success, you're not getting what you want, so you're not successful. And they're telling you what you should want, You should want more money, you should want a higher position, you should want these clothes, you should want this house, whatever you should want. So we just want to try to inspire people to have Krishna tell us what we want, what we should want. Everybody really wants love. That's all they really want. And Maya is telling you that if you have all these things, you'll get love. People will love you. They might love your clothes, or they might be envied. They might love your clothes and kill you for them. That's happened in America sometimes. High school kids, saying, give me those shoes, give me those Nike. No, and then they fight and they kill the kid, it's happened. So we want Krishna. There was an old song, I want money. And then Naren Sharfat, he made it, I want Krishna. That's what I want Krishna. That's what we have to keep thinking. What do we want really besides Krishna? If you have Krishna, what more do you need? And if you don't have Krishna, what does it matter if you own the whole planet? Like Hiranyakasipu, he was never happy. He was always angry and upset, trying to get more, but he had everything. So Prahlad said, I learned from watching my father. Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Prasadam distribution ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari, book distribution ki jai. And we want to, really take shelter of Lord Chaitanya. The chants is coming up. There's a lot of classes coming up on the internet about Lord Chaitanya and getting ready for Gaur Purnima. The appearance of Lord Chaitanya is very special. In one sense, more than Janmashtami, because at least for most of us, even the Indians, they wouldn't know much about Krishna without Lord Chaitanya. Most of us wouldn't know anything. Indian people know, they know Krishna, but they didn't know really what is. But Lord Chaitanya has opened up and, spread this movement all over the universe. Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Gauranga. So beautiful. Right? That's of all the six opulences, the beauty is the most important. Everybody's looking for something beautiful.